So the Fresh Ideas Summit says, what is it that we've heard from these kids? Now the stakeholders get to give feedback to say that we really did hear you. And at the end, of course, we'll have a report that is packaged particularly to go into the Office of Decision Making.
How is this going to influence, the ability to advocate for themselves in the future?
It's a part of our foundation that we're looking at the frameworks like the United Nations, which is on rights. That is Article 13, which is more focused on a child being able to express themselves. Furthermore, into the constitution of this very country, in Section 12, where we speak of expression, being able to express yourself. So that is what we're going to be basing ourselves on.
Children in Botswana are reported to be facing significant barriers to participating in governance and policy making, leaving their voices underrepresented in decisions that affect their lives. Despite legal frameworks such as the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child and Botswana's constitution, societal norms and systemic challenges hinder their inclusion as active contributors. To address these issues, Palaneng will host the Young Art, Young Voices seminar on the 21st of February to create a platform for children to express their ideas. This initiative aims to foster intergenerational dialogue, educate children about their rights, and influence policy. Now, Palaneng founder member Mosara Ramopedi and Palaneng team leader Motheo Dilelo join this conversation to give us an insight on what Young Art, Young Voices seminar aims to do. A very good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us, ladies.
A good afternoon to you, Ma. Thank you so much for having us.
Right. First and foremost, let's talk about Young Art, Young Voices seminar. What is it all about? What does it entail, and what does it, aim to address?
Let me start off by greeting your lovely viewers at home. Ke dumedisa Botswana. Lefatshe ka bophara ke a lo leboga. Gore re bo lebogetse le mo nakong ya gompieno. And Young Art, Young Voice is basically about creativity and the ability for children to express their voices. This is going to be done in debates for them to be critically thinking. This is going to be done in public speaking where they express their voices and will go on to their art, the performing art as well as the visual arts.
Right.
So through these expressions, we're expecting to hear the voice of the child because it's a more palatable way to say that a child can communicate. So we are more focused on children of the ages 10 to 17 because according to our research, it has shown that a child at the age of 10 can actually make a reasonable argument. And therefore, we need to try and create that platform to say that, but what is it that you have to say in order to involve them in governance and policy making?
Right. Yeah. And this is children how old?
We'll be dealing with children who are between the ages of 10 and 17 years old.
Right, yeah. Between 10 and 17 years old. I'd like for us to, dive deep into talking about where this Young Art, Young Voices seminar, what idea it stems from.
Right. Like you've been speaking initially, Palaneng. Palaneng is a program that we came up with because we had gone through training with the Botswana Public Center for Integrity, and we were learning on governance, we were learning on democracy, and we're learning on peace and security. So what is it that we did was, as a part of our assignment, we found it fit now to go a step out and go teach another person. And the target group that we've come to is the 10 to 17, given that they come across as a vulnerable group that at times their voices don't really get to be heard as children, given the lack of access to information, given the lack of participation opportunity, just an opportunity that says that a child can participate in it, and also given the fact that our social stigma, our culture is not that a child can say anything. Sorry, but all together, Palaneng.
Right. Lovely. That is so lovely. And you mentioned a very important point there when you speak of, our culture. Our culture, in as much as, it influences growth, it influences it, and it instills some sort of
yes.
In the sense of the way that you handle yourself as an individual as you grow. I feel like there's some areas where it might be a bit limiting to children
Yes.
around those ages,
Very
10
true.
to 17, you know, where they can't make a reasonable argument that no, but no, mom, this is how we have to speak to each other. This is how we have to communicate with each other in order to have like an effective communication line.
Absolutely.
Let's speak about such barriers and other barriers really that, you know, children have or experience in terms of expressing their voices and being able to make a meaningful impact in decisions that ultimately affect their lives.
Okay, so there's a barrier of the stigma that children are not able to articulate themselves in stuff concerning governance and policy making, stuff that essentially affect them. So we initially were looking at, okay, we're looking at children who are not able to vote. That's why we went for children aged 10 to 17, because 18 and above, you're allowed to vote and have a say in politics.
Right.
And then there's the effect of where you stay. We're looking at people in Ramotsa particularly because we realize that they are quite ostracized in terms of a child's voice in politics. So we're looking at demographic, and then we're also looking at age range in terms of barriers.
Right.
And then we're also going to have children with disabilities also participate so them too can have their voices heard in politics.
Right, right. Anything to add on to that?
Well, like we've already mentioned, it's just a matter of the lack of access to information, and therefore our program is such that we have a training of information. We educate them on democracy, we educate them on governance first, and then train them towards the actual event. So that by the time they're actually performing or giving out their views, it is out of skill, it is out of preparation, and they are able to be heard easily. And of course, you've been speaking of how we will involve the parents and involve the adults. We have a plan to invite, we're going to be inviting the decision makers or the policy makers who actually have a say when it comes to changing the status quo or making laws. So what it is we're going to have is invite them, and then at the end of our program, we're going to have what we call the Fresh Ideas Summit.
Right.
So the Fresh Ideas Summit says, what is it that we've heard from these kids? Now the stakeholders get to give feedback to say that we really did hear you. And at the end, of course, we'll have a report that is packaged particularly to go into the Office of Decision Making.
Right, right. So in essence, the seminar really is going to educate the child as well on their rights, because we find that most of the times our kids are not even aware of the rights that they do have, and that's why we find them, you know, vulnerable to being violated or their rights being violated. How is this going to influence, you know, the ability to advocate for themselves in the future?
It's a part of it's a part of our foundation that we're looking at the frameworks like the United Nations, which is on rights. That is Article 13, which is more focused on a child being able to express themselves. Furthermore, into the constitution of this very country, in Section 12, where we speak of expression, being able to express yourself. So that is what we're going to be basing ourselves on. And of course, we'll go further to teach more other rights, not only the rights, but couple it with the responsibilities so that they know what it is that they're about to stand up to. What is that responsibility as a child? So that they're able to now rise up to participating and advocating for their voice in a better manner.
Right, right. Anything to add on to that?
Masa has perfectly substanted it, yes.
Right, right. Now, last year we did see, everyone was very excited to see the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Children and Botswana's Constitution. That was quite interesting, and to see such young people be so articulate and, you know, coming with such full understanding of what they were talking about and what changes that they wanted to see. Despite having such conventions where we see children coming together to, you know, to voice out the concerns about their rights, about where they stand in society, when we talk of politics, when we talk of, you know, any area really that affects their lives and the economy of the country, you know, we do see an underrepresentation of, you know, these children or their voices, you know, being heard on such platforms, right? Let's talk about the impact that Palaneng is going to have in terms of, you know, having children voices be heard?
Let's start off with the fact that the opportunities are minimal, like you've just been saying. So this is one platform that will allow them for I don't know, I mean, in a long time, to be able to voice their views. It's one platform, like I said, we try to make it palatable using creativity, because children are very creative people. So what we're going to do is to spark the creativity in them. That part, we're going to make sure that the area that they thrive better in is the one that we're going to use. So what will we do? We will inform them. After informing them, then we consult. Half the time we're not consulting them. That is why they're not coming forth in the first place. So we inform them, we teach them, and then we consult them. And then hear their view and show that we didn't just consult you. We consulted you, and here's your voice in policy making. Here's your voice in the decision making. It's reflecting.
Right, right. And I think that is one thing that is very important in, the growth, the growth or development process. It really will show that they are not alone, and that they are heard, and they will become, better citizens as they grow. I'd like for us to also touch on the education system that we do have here in Botswana. For a while we have been complaining or voicing out a concern that our syllabus does not really align with what is happening in the world, on the ground, what is actually needed, what values and other things that need to be instilled in a child from a very young age are not included in our syllabus. What can we say on that?
We will be providing the students with a workbook and toolbook, which should enable them to not only take the values and what they learned about that basic rights, governance, terminologies, but use it in future, create groups, teams of debate, public speaking, art clubs within the schools, even without our presence, just to continue the conversation and involve them more in politics. Yes.
Right. Is there future, any thought of a future, maybe perhaps a collaboration with the Ministry of Child Welfare and Basic Education?
Absolutely. They are one of our stakeholders. We're ensuring to invite them to be with us on the day to listen to the kids. So that's the intention. All various kinds of stakeholders, including the non-governmental organizations, that are actually up to what we are doing as well to try and strengthen the hands. So we are having our stakeholders, including the Ministry of Child and Welfare.
Right. The seminar is provide quite fertile ground and a conducive environment for that intergenerational dialogue to happen between children and adults, the policymakers. Not just the policymakers, but parents as well. Because sometimes we look at this and maybe we might look at just the policymakers, overlooking the people that actually spend so much time with these children and quite important stakeholders in the progress of what you are trying to do there, right? Let's talk more about how this dialogue is then going to bring about or foster progress or progression in terms of children understanding, like you did say, the role and responsibility in the community, right? And the impact that they have in the community and the economy of the country.
So the intergenerational dialogue is inevitable. It's going to happen. That is exactly where this is headed. The intergenerational dialogue is going to happen. And what we're establishing is mutual respect between the children, the adults, and the children. Hence the name Botlhale jwa Phala bo tswa Phalaneng. Let's believe in them. Let's trust them to actually come out with something that can assist us as well. So we're going to be having this conversation between parents and children to establish mutual respect and understanding, where everybody will have an opportunity to speak. The children will speak, we'll hear their perspective, and then the parents will give us the guidance and the context. Because we're children, we can only see as far. We can only see as far, but our parents or our adults can actually see beyond. So what will happen with this conversation is for us to be able to have both ends. The perspective, Yangwana, will have the context of what is it that we're dealing with, and the guidance, of course, of those that understand what it is that we are dealing with.
Right.
The decision makers.
Right.
Yeah.
And also might I add that we have to be very understanding and of the fact that things have changed, right? Things that worked back then, things that worked for, that generation is not particularly working in this generation. So I'm very excited for, this seminar, because it will bring about that understanding, like you said, and mutual respect for each other, right? Let's talk post-seminar. What are you going to do to what are steps put in place that you're going to ensure that the children's voices have been heard, and that they also feel heard, and that there are some changes made in terms of catering for the needs of the children in policies?
The idea with Fresh Ideas Seminar is we're going to have what we call the wall of voices, where individuals, be it the participants who are the students, the parents who will be attending, the public who are inviting, and maybe general stakeholders who will be there, can write down, okay, what changes do you feel are needed to be made for the children? And then we'll have an open discussion during the summit. And then we're going to have some sort of questionnaire and interaction with the children to ask them, do you really feel heard? Do you feel like there has been a change after a period of time?
Right.
And then we will stay in communication with stakeholders. We also plan to have an open communication, some dialogue on social media. We have opened our platforms, Palaneng Space BW, on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok for the children.
Right.
So we would have a space for everyone to have open dialogues. Intergenerational dialogues will be happening on those platforms to say, okay, as a child, I feel heard, and this is what's happening. As a parent, I feel like this is what's best for my children in terms of safety, in terms of education. As a policymaker, this is how we are proceeding forward. Yes.
Right. Talk about a season of open doors, eh?
Come on.
All right. Any last words that you'd like to share with us in terms of the seminar that is to come on the 21st of February?
Ke ka re hela ke re botlhale jwa phala bo tswa phalaneng. Phala e senang phalana le silo. That is to say that the wisdom of the old comes from the young. It's still possible. The latter is better. Let's try it out.
Right.
So let's give our children a chance. Let's attend to these walls of culture, and let's change them for our benefit, that at the end of the day we have an inclusive and an effective governance where our children, because all our leaders that you see today have been children. And if at all we have children that are consulted, then we'll have leaders that consult because they know they were consulted. Let me give a shout out to Botswana Public Integrity and the Canada Fund for Local Initiatives, which is the one that is standing behind us and supporting us. It is powered by Canada Fund for Local Initiatives, and as well as BCPI. Thank you so much.
Okay. Who can participate? Not just an age. If I have a 10-year-old that wants to participate, a 17-year-old, where do I sign up?
You can contact us at 77690-230. Just let us know.
All right. Thank you so much, ladies.
Thank you so much.